go on. Good to go. I want to
Yeah, a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
You still hear alright, aye? You still hear me okay? It's a wee bit crackly, but we'll see how it goes. Just trying to mess up and make sure it's sounding alright. Stop me up to this one.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Will I try to ring you? Will I try to ring you?
Aye, we'll try that. Aye, go for it.
Yeah.
Aye, try that.
How is that?
How's that?
I can hear you clearly now. What about you?
No, you're still breaking up a bit to me. Oh, that's a bit
Well, we walked into the Muslim sauna and somebody had it won. But we shut the world out to play, and now it's known as the Celtic way. We play the ball from side.
Yeah.
one.
Hello folks, welcome again to Celtic Rumours TV with your host Mark and myself Paul. Today we're going to talk about our captain, our legend, and I suppose some of ours, he's a hero. Scott Brown, who spent 14 years at the club, 612 appearances, 127 European appearances, 46 goals, 10 league titles, 6 Scottish Cups, 6 League Cups, twice Player of the Year, 5 times Team of the Year. Scott Brown, for me, he's just been a legend, Mark. How about yourself?
Oh, without a doubt. He's up there with Bill Neil.
Without doubt.
Even for his trophy haul.
Trophy haul, yeah. As I was reading there today, like, behind Billy McNeil, he's just the second most successful captain in the club's history. Like, what an achievement! Like, with those records and those titles, like, you're not going to see a player being at a club for so long.
His record must be up there with some of the best in Europe.
I think so. You don't.
I'm talking about his trophy haul.
Yeah.
There can't be many players about Europe that have got the kind of trophy record.
Trophy record.
Even the trophies he lifted as a captain.
Even as in the last 5 years, most of these cups have been won in the last 5 years. You know, so you're not going to see a player win these at a club, at just one club. You might say his career, but at just one club, it's just phenomenal. You know, but
He deserves every plaudit and every bit of credit he gets.
I think so. Yeah.
How many times did the Celtic support write him off?
Right, more. I just read there like before Brendan Rodgers came in, after the Ronnie Dyla left. When Rodgers came in, all people were crying for Scott Brown to leave. That he was past it.
Saying that echo's really bad again.
The echo.
Coming through fine with me.
Is it bad?
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. I'm good, like, yeah. Is it echoes really bad again?
No, just you're coming through perfect to me.
Yeah,
I don't know what's doing that.
it's when Paul is speaking. Slight echo on me. Maybe I'm too near to the mic.
But saying that's better.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're saying that's better.
right. So as we were saying,
About that, Paul, on you go.
yeah, we were just saying, like nowadays, Mark, you don't see a player stay with a club for so long, 14 years.
Oh, no,
It's a lot of time to be at one club, isn't it? You know, and
it's that.
you know, in a way, like, I think a lot of fans will. You could look at it both ways. It's a way of the club moving forward, you know, an end of an era,
Well,
and
that's
then
I said. He maybe have looked at it.
yeah,
He maybe have looked at it and just said, "Well, Blobbles away. It's the end. Lennon's not. He was there for Lennon's first years there. He was there
first year,
for
yeah,
3 years.
exactly, exactly,
The end of
exactly.
an era, a clean sweep, and just have a clean break rather than be the
Yeah,
kind of old player that's just hanging about the squad. And do you know what I mean?
I don't think he kind of wanted that next season.
I don't
You
know.
know, just to be a bit, especially when he's at the end of his career. You want to be playing.
Well,
You know,
he wants to be playing as much as he can.
yeah,
He's just going to end up sitting in the Celtic bench watching games and getting the odd 10 minutes in the odd cup game.
but
Move for him to move to Aberdeen, I really do.
I think so. It's just the truth to see which way he goes. You know, what way he'll be as a coach. Maybe he'll come back to the club in 2 years' time when his contract is up at Aberdeen. Will he come into the coaching setup then?
Well, what kind of coach do you think he's going to be?
That's the thing. Like, is he going to be this hard man that he's on the pitch?
Is he going to be the kind
You
of
know,
take
is
the
he going
best of Brendan Rodgers, the best of see all the folk he's worked
exactly? Is he going to be like? Is he going to be like Neil Lennon? Do you know
aye,
that kind of a manager? You know, so
or a Roy
I think he's going to learn. I
Keane,
think
we're
it's
saying about Keane.
yeah, yeah. I think manager outside Celtic and learn different ways and see what kind of teams do beyond Celtic. You know, in the coaching capacity. You know, see different views.
Well, it's a lot more significant and prominent position being a number two than just as I said, he'd only been trained coaching kids at Celtic.
No, 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 no. And we already have a coaching set up there, and I think Brown coming. I don't think Brown would want that either. You know, Brown wants to be involved in the first team, and you know he wants to finish his career in a high. But I just hope this team can give him another cup.
Oh, that would be the best. That
You
would
know,
be the best send off we could
you
give.
know. But is this team capable of giving him another cup, Mark, the way we're playing this season?
Oh,
You know, that's that's uh that's the
question, isn't
that's
it?
the question. The way this season has been going,
Celtic's
with
going
Celtic
to
team turn up, you know, which talk because I was looking there like. The fear factor has gone out of this team. The confidence at a new low. They certainly don't know what they're doing on the pitch, these players. So any team that's going to play with Celtic now is going to fancy their chances, especially against in a knockoff game. You know,
one-off games. Oh, definitely.
yeah, definitely. You know,
You've said a couple of times there's no fear factor at all at Celtic Park, whether that's the fans or whatever coming in. But
I think it is. I think it is. I think you could look at teams across Europe who have built success on their fans. You know, like you had Anfield there in the Champions League when Chelsea came off to Anfield. The fans were there. When fans came to Celtic Park, the fans were outside the stadium with their flags, with their banners, their fireworks. The fans make an awful difference to a team. You know, that's what I think, Mark. You know that the
they definitely do. Well, over the years, look at the players that have came and spoke about that.
yeah you've like of Xavi, Iniesta, you'd Messi. You
That
know,
say
the,
the big crowds and that don't intimidate teams and that's is wrong to an extent. But
you
to
know,
an extent, they're still professional football players. They can't blame the fans not being there. They're
you
still
know.
getting their thousands of
They're
pounds.
still getting, yeah, exactly. They should be able to still be able to deal with this pressure. They're professional footballers.
Well, you look at the teams in Turkey, the way they try to intimidate teams that are coming in to play them, and so
Exactly,
crowds in that day play their part. I don't think as much maybe at the weir clubs and that, but it's the big teams it matters. I think.
exactly. Who do you think is going to who'll fill that gap, Mark? With long gone, is Zorro the man to fill that gap? Or
Park on the
hmm
park, I'd go for Sorrow definitely.
definitely, or do There's a few talks that they're looking at Lewis Ferguson from Aberdeen to come in.
Well,
Or is he just?
I think he's a good player as well. I think.
But I was looking though, is he a good player in the poor Aberdeen team?
No, he's a good player. I can mind him being Ackies in that as well.
Yeah. So do you think the club should be looking at him? That Brown is there, maybe Brown could give a push that Ferguson might come, or
But if he's got to come, see somebody like Ferguson coming in, we can't just rely on the same players every single week.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
I don't mean all this the way Lennon and that dropped this one, played this one out here. I'm just talking about players can't play every game.
You have to refresh your team. You have to have competition in both in the first team, and yeah,
Who's going to be here next year?
exactly. So that's the uncertainty, but that we don't know really, Mark.
To
You
me,
know,
I've said that he got Barry Ferguson there. That would have been done well. Lewis Ferguson is one of the best young Scottish players outside Celtic now. So Celtic should be looking. See, every good Scottish player Celtic should be keeping.
But would he be welcomed with his Rangers family's past? You know, like.
I know it's 2021 we're living in. And as I've said, people.
Exactly, but there will be some supporters there, Mark, though, that would kind of say that, wouldn't they? That they wouldn't be happy that we're signing a player who has people in his family who had played with Rangers, you know, and they love.
Gordon Marshall's dad no play with Rangers.
And no, he did. And what about the fella Allen? He had Rangers past, didn't he? The fella.
I mean, people seem to have this idea because Barry had a few dodgy moments when he was younger and that, but they seem to have this idea that they're pure 12th of July.
Exactly.
But their family's not like that at all.
They're
not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the boys in that, they're all Rangers supporters. But see, really, all the rest, I've never heard anything bad being involved. Apart from at Rangers nights, obviously they're singing all the daft songs, but I've never heard the Barry being that way. No, I mean,
yeah.
I'm not one.
When I listen to Barry Ferguson as a commentator, he seems neutral. You know, he's not always against Celtic like Chris Boyd is on Sky. You know, he's a very neutral kind of a commentator. You know, Barry Ferguson. Anytime I heard him speak,
don't even get me started on that.
No, we'll save that for another day. I don't want you to break the equipment there, no, Mark.
You get anything else you want to add to now, and I'll go.
No, we'll bring in.
Going to get Bestie Boy back on after the mess we had the other night with the sound and audio, so we thought it was only right that we had them on first blast tonight.
Yep.
So I'm going to get them hooked up. Eventually.
I just read out a few posts there from David Garrett. I'm gutted that he's leaving, but I can understand he's thinking. William said thinks Celtic should have found a job for him. Buzzbomb, I feel more confident about winning the cup. Pedro, boys, we need to build a squad, not a team. I agree with that, with Pedro 71. We need to build a squad, not a team. We have one of the biggest squads in the league, but do we have the best 11 in the league?
And none of them get near it. But we've got that squad, but how many of them are actually getting near the team?
Exactly. That's like I say, like with Pedro there, he's saying we need to build a squad, not a team. You know, we don't have a squad really. We have fringe players who actually never get into first team, who never break into the first team. You know, and I think that's been one of Laurel's kind of downfalls, really, just signing players just for the sake of it. You know, that's maybe with Mackay coming in, we can just change that bring in players who can impact the first team. You know.
Well, we need players that's going to keep the first team players on their toes.
That's it, yeah, exactly.
Sorrow and Lewis Ferguson. Celtic hopefully are in Europe now, play enough games that Sorrow and Lewis Ferguson can
get
enough game time. And who's to say against teams in Europe? Why not play two real? If we're going to have the two sitting in, why not play just two real central?
Instead of playing in Cham in there, instead of playing, two players that don't play well together, in Cham and Brown, they never played well together. And the big games they always play, and that's where I think we lost a lot of our old forms, is we lost them in the midfield area. You know, because he did.
Brown lost. Brown a lot of times in that. As we saw, he has declined on that, but there was just no fight. There's been no fight in the team. The only player
That,
that's actually really showed any kind of passion at all this season's Aya.
yeah, and he's the one. That's why I was going to ask you that there later on. There, Mark, is do you think the club approach him saying we'll double your wages to Scott Brown's way? I know it's not going to be like what he's going to get off AC Milan or any big team, you know, but just like give us another year, give us a year or two, we'll make you captain. Do you think we could persuade him to stay with a new manager if we offered him that?
Hi guys.
Oh, there's Bestie online now.
Hey, Bestie, how are you? We were just saying there,
Yes,
Bestie,
good
about
lads.
about Christoph Ayer, that if the club offered him a new contract, offered him the captaincy under a new manager, do you think that would be able to persuade him to stay, or is his mindset definitely ongoing?
Bestie. Have we lost him?
I think the whole issue. Sorry, I feel as if I'm about 5 seconds behind your conversation there, guys. But hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hear you?
Yeah, I'm actually hearing what I've just said there, guys. I don't know what the problem is.
Do you have your YouTube on again, or?
Yeah, well, I am, or actually had come up with a good point. The thing about Celtic should have found a job for Bruni.
Mm-hmm.
And I read an article today, and it was saying that Lawwell had come out and made a statement that said that he desperately did try to keep him, but for some reason, well, at the end of the day, Bruni decided that it wasn't about money. He wanted the opportunity. He wanted to progress his career. He wanted to obviously gain the experience. You know, it's never going to be down to money between us and Aberdeen. We would always have been able to pay him far more than what he's going to get there. But obviously, because we don't have a manager at the moment or a director of football, if we're getting one, then I think it's very difficult for the job to offer him a concrete coaching role when they don't even know who it is he's going to be working with.
Yeah. Do you think that Brown knows who the new manager is and he's not happy with who's coming in and that's why he's moving, Chris? Mark, can you hear that?
I can hear you fine, Paul. Aye.
Yeah.
That could well be the case, guys. It could well be. Again, with Celtic, everything is cloak and dagger. We never know anything.
Yeah, you're just constantly thinking with Celtic at the moment. You know, we actually don't know what's going on behind the club. You know, I think that's the main issue. You know.
I'm not believing that Bruns found out who the manager is and Disney fancy it. I can't see anything like that.
Can't see it.
Nah. Even if that would be the case, it could be. What if the manager was going to come in and say to him, "Oh, you'll be first choice for me every week next season"? I don't believe. I know he's a captain and that, but Dermot Desmond and that, they're not going to discuss things like that with Scott Brown.
Exactly.
He'll probably hear things and he'll know things more than we do, but I honestly don't think it's got any to do with any of the management appointment or that. I think it's just the fact that it's a better job than coaching kids. Playing a lot more football. To me, that's just really what it comes down to in a nutshell.
And who'd fill his boots though? Who do you think will be the captain? There's talks about Callum McGregor and Julian would be assistant manager.
I wouldn't have any of them. The only one I would have out of that team as a captain would be Ayer, and I don't think he's going to be there.
Would you think that now be able to persuade Mark to stay if they give him?
I don't think so.
You know,
I think the idea's a bit above his station. Don't get me wrong. I do think in time he will be a top player, but he's not there yet.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm saying. Like maybe another year with Celtic as captain would make him an even more of a leader, wouldn't it, in his career? You know.
As the Norway manager and everything's coming out that he should be playing in a better league and things like that doesn't help the matter either.
No, it doesn't really. But the same happened with Rodgers as well years ago when he was at his prime with Celtic. The Australian manager used to come out and say that to him, like, you should be leaving Celtic for a better club. You should be leaving, you know.
See,
like that
move to Dubai, that fell through for Rodgers. The only team I've ever known for 100% that wanted to sign Rodgers was Leeds when they were in the Championship.
Championship, yeah, that Leeds.
I mean, Leeds, there was that many managers, I couldn't even tell you who the manager was at the time, do you know what I mean? But that is the only club and only time I've ever heard of any actual concrete move.
Yeah. What's your favourite moments of Scott Brown, Bestie?
Well, I think the day he signed, was obviously, I think we all saw a player in him, even when he was at Hibs, and I still remember fondly the time when it was the end of the end of 07, I think, was up when Bruni signed for us during that summer or something, and the Sevs were up at Easter Road at the time, and they were singing we're going to take Scott Brown, and I think at the time they were trying to do a double take with Bruni and Stevie
they
Thompson.
were in for him, actually, weren't they? Rangers at that time as well, weren't they? They were looking to sign him, weren't they? Rangers at the time.
Did actually, I think that they'd signed him. Rangers had them in the bag.
And what do you think changed his mind? Was it Strachan?
I had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Because it's back to what we talked about with young players, a plan to get...
A plan. I think Strachan had a plan for him.
This is a plan, this is... see your career going, you need to, I mean, you can't just bring young players in, throw them in the team and just let them go. Go to exactly. Futures, and it was a plan and what Strachan wanted him to do and play his part in the team. I think that's what sold him, Celtic or Rangers. Plus maybe money, who knows.
And what about yourself, Mark? What do you fondly of Scott Brown?
The Bruni in front of you.
Yeah.
The Bruni at Ibrox.
I was just going to say that myself. When he started winding up all the fans and started taking his t-shirt off, was it?
But he scored the goal and just stood in front of that El Hadj.
Yeah.
That
was... He used to give him an awful kind of... I think an awful thing, but I think that's what we're going to miss about Scott Brown in the Rangers games, because he knew how to wind up the Rangers players. No matter who they were, he always picked out their bully, and he actually put their bully down. Maybe it was Joey Barton, it was Defoe, it's Morales. He put them in his... And they couldn't hack it.
With Joey Barton, it was just mind games and Joey Barton.
Mind games, and he couldn't... And this is Joey Barton, of the Premier League, who was the hard boy in the Premier League, and he couldn't handle Scott Brown when he came up to...
I'm coming up to put Scott Brown in his place and all that part of it.
Yeah. That's one of my favourite.
Many players in Scotland have put Scott Brown in their place over the years.
No.
Guys, do you remember the day Sam Cosgrove at Aberdeen tried to do it a few years ago? And that was, the infamous one where two Aberdeen players actually tried to take his legs from him, and Rooney jumped up and strutted around and gestured to the fans and bring it on.
The Bruni walk one day. He did the Bruni walk coming in. Yeah. I remember that, but that's the things that you miss about him on the pitch, and I think there's no player at Celtic that can replace him doing that. Winding up the opposition or anything like that. There's no one there close to even getting like that.
It'll be harder to replace his personality, and
I think that's the big thing, Mark, that we're going to lack.
Rather than what he's been doing in the park the last 18 months.
Yeah.
I mean, did you read Sviatchenko's interview, bit in the paper or whatever it is about him?
No.
Tried to fine him £650 for going to the toilet and missing a team talk.
Oh, Jesus.
I was reading something online earlier, but
I think I saw that as well, Mark. He actually said he would pay the £600 fine, and then he found out months later that the fine was only 150. But Bruni took the 600 and put it to what Cosgrove called, or what Sviatchenko called, a good cause. And the good cause, as it turned out, was a night out for the lads.
Was it? Aye. See, a lot of teams in that, see their fine system, it all goes to a charity.
Yeah.
So we're just looking there. That's it's going to be a very short time for when a new manager comes into the end of the season till the next Champions League qualifiers. So do we actually think that the club have their manager in place, that they know who it's going to be, and he's already looking at the team? And should we be dropping Scott Brown now and playing Zorro in that position to see if he's able to make that position his own? Or
Don't think Kennedy will drop him. I don't. He should. Should they? They just say, look,
like bring him on as a kind of a chemo appearances, Mark,
start every Scottish Cup game, and it's up to you to drive the team on to win the Scottish
Exactly.
Cup kind of thing.
Yeah. I just feel like it's time, like.
Oh, Sorrow might be sitting there and saying, I'm off as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Team,
Some people, Mark, fair to replace a big player, like it was grand that Zorro coming in doing his bit here and there, because Scott Brown was still there. But when Scott Brown leaves, the pressure now is going to fall on Zorro to step up, really, isn't it?
definitely.
You know, and
he might be at the stage he's thought, why did I not play more this season? He hadn't put
yeah,
that right.
yeah. Well, if he was talking to Cham, he's probably leaving next week. So, so we're just looking at there that some stats there that Bawz sent through to us about Scott Brown and the Rangers, that our pigeon safely delivered to us under the bad suckness again from opposition fans. He's won. Bear with me there now. Just talk away there, Mark. I'll find my page there. All right. So against the Shevko and against Rangers combined, he's won 22 games. He's drawn 3. He's lost 14. There's 68 goals for, and there's 22 to 43 against. That's some record to have against your main rivals, isn't it? You know.
Just his record in general.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll go the 9 in a row they won in the league. It doesn't matter. You still need to win the titles.
Exactly. So
but Scott Brown's been one of the most dominant figures in Scottish football for 10 years.
Not even for the national team as well. He actually brought a different. He brought that same charisma to the international team. He never changed in the Scottish international team. He was the same player. He had the same character. He had the same drive. So he didn't change. It's just Scott Brown, and that's the way he was. Whether you like it or you didn't like it, really, isn't it?
He'd need no respect. I don't mean respect as in like he didn't respect the players, but on the park, he'd need respect for it. He'd need fear. He'd need intimidate. He didn't allow older, more experienced, better players.
No, like he was afraid of no one really.
Paul Lambert tells a story about Bruni winding him up when Bruni was. I'm sure it must have been at Hibs, and I'm sure it's Lambert talks about him winding him up and yapping away at him in the tunnel and that. Paul Lambert said before the game,
But no one intimidates him, no matter how big the club was or how big the player was. If you try to run Scott Brown up, he'll give it back to you, and 90 times out of 100, he'd win it. So that's
saying that Sorrow should be starting.
There's no doubt, guys, that Bruni leaving us is a massive boost for Aberdeen. And Stephen Glasser, the new Aberdeen manager, there came out and said, there's a reason why most of the fans in Scotland don't like Scott Brown, and that's because more often than not, he sickened them because he got the better of their team.
See, if Brown had signed for Rangers, we would be having a totally different conversation about him.
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
because I think he would have had an equally important impact for them that he had for us.
Yeah, definitely. Saying that how things would have went after their meltdown, but before that, he would have been one of the best players, definitely.
There's a few things here that Zorro should be playing till the end of the season at least, but the question is, will Kennedy drop Brown? I really don't think Kennedy will drop Brown, really.
Well,
I think Kennedy will just give Brown this kind of long goodbye till the end of the season, and
I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if we actually saw Bruni over the next number of games actually getting back near the top of his game because he knows it's his last swan song at Celtic, and he wants to go out on a high. Even he wants to finish this season, and particularly the Scottish Cup, on such a high because he knows it's the end of the road at Celtic.
Yeah,
and
that's what we were saying.
Probably never going to be in this situation.
We were saying that, Chris. Like, do you think this team is capable of giving him another cup this season?
To be honest, if I were a betting man, which I'm not thankfully, but if I were a betting man, I wouldn't be putting money on Celtic winning the Scottish Cup this season because we are so unpredictable, and we could go out and lose. Who are we drawn against? Forfar Athletic, is it?
Yeah.
I'd still be mightily surprised if we lose at Forfar, but I wouldn't be surprised if we draw an average mid-Premiership team in the next round, and I wouldn't be at all surprised.
I say it's going to be the best season, the best sign Aberdeen made in a good couple of years by bringing in Scott Brown into that team.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think Aberdeen will they'll definitely get a couple of seasons out of him as a bit part player. But at the end of the day, he's not, as we all know, he's not going there just to play football. I think he's
going there to learn his trade as well, isn't he?
Very much so. And if all goes well, I think should the opportunity arise in the future, once he gets 2 or 3 years experience under his belt, I wouldn't be surprised if the opportunity arose for him to come back to Celtic, because I think if he's doing well enough to generate the interest from a club like Celtic, I think if that phone call was made, I think he would be back immediately.
Who do you think he'd be like? Do you think he'd be his own man, or would he be like Neil Lennon, Brendan Rodgers, or will he be this hard man like Roy Keane in the?
I don't think he would be like him. I certainly don't think he'd be like Roy Keane, because Keane is just a bully. Bruni's not a bully. Bruni's very, very clever. Even Keane as a player was. Yes, he was what a wonderful player, truly, truly wonderful player. But there was a thuggish nature, there was a thuggish side to his game as well. And not just, and then once he wasn't involved physically in the games, i.e. when he went to Sunderland and then in Ipswich, he couldn't be a thug on the pitch. So apparently, if you listen to even half of the stories that are said about him, he was one hell of a thug in the dressing room with his own team. And maybe thug is not the right word, but he was brutal. He could be very, very sharp tongue, and modern day players just don't take that anymore.
No.
So I don't think he would be like Keane. I don't think.
I think he played his best career under Rodgers, but he kind of be similar to him. That Rodgers was able to keep him fit, and got the kind of best years out of him at such a later age in his career. Rodgers. Well, he helped Scott Brown prolong his career. Really,
the thing about Rodgers, Paul, and I know there was a lot of discontent among the Celtic fans about Rodgers, but if even a couple of the rumours are true about why he left, you can nearly understand why he left. But Rodgers was such a clever manager, and he had a terrific way of managing players and getting the best out of them.
Yeah.
And apparently, when he went to Leicester, Jimmy Vardy was thinking maybe, is that me out the door? And apparently Rodgers sort of came and, had a private meeting with him, and he says, Jimmy, you're one of the reasons why I came here.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Vardy said,
Danny McGreenish, does it know?
Yeah. Yeah, he said it made him feel like $1 million.
But Brendan Rodgers got 20 years out of Calator in his 30s, didn't he? So
Celtic, he said Danny McGrain came up to him and he says, "Oh, have I got a role in that?" And he hit him with it. "Oh, Danny, you're this and you're that. You're one of my heroes." And then when he left, Danny McGrain came out and says, "That never happened." I didn't want to bring it up.
It was just the thing as well. Like, you could see all that about that. He was, this great Celtic supporter growing up. I used to go there with my dad. I used to go watch him on the telly. But then you hear the stories then that saying, like, people come out saying that never happened at the club, this never happened at the club, So He could be kind of talking himself up as well, couldn't he, Rodgers, about his love for the club, wasn't it?
Yes, there's absolutely no doubt about it. But he had and he still has. You only have to look at Leicester's performances, this season. He has a way of mentally getting the best out of players.
Yeah, and because we all thought, Chris, that Scott Brown was finished after Ronnie Doyle went, because that season he had was very poor that season, and then Brendan Rodgers came in and he was just one of our best players in the team.
So would Bruni be like Brendan Rodgers? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But I don't think he'd be anything like Keane, and I don't think he's as smart as Rodgers, and I think he's more intelligent than Lennon.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons he left as well, to work in a new club, see kind of the background of a new club, what way they do things, and kind of learn his trade then off Glass, because he knew Glass from the Hibs days. See what way he is as a manager and can put his own thoughts and stuff then with Aberdeen, So it's actually, for Scott Brown, you couldn't diss him for taking this move, because it's a great move for Scott Brown. It's just a pity that the fans that aren't really in the stadium, they give him a proper goodbye. Like, you could see the Green Brigade having a big banner up in the corner of Celtic Park, with his face in it, but it's just a sad time that the fans can't be there to give him a send-off, really, isn't it?
It is, and it's a pity that we can't stop the clock until everything gets back to normal so that kind of thing can happen. But unfortunately, even though the stadiums are closed, everybody's still getting a day older every day and a month older every month, and time is just going on. And, look, Bruni's in a position where he has to do what is right for him and his family. And, that's what he's doing. And he had the perfect opportunity, didn't he, a couple of seasons ago to go to, was it Australia or somewhere?
Australia, yeah.
Australia, but he decided not to. That would have been a whole new life, a whole new opportunity. And I don't know, maybe his wife.
I think this season hurt him as well, didn't it? The way the team went this season, wasn't it? It would have been a great send-off for him to get to 10 in the row, wouldn't it? As a player,
it would have been. It would have been
captain of the league for 10 years, winning the league.
It would have been. It would have been. Yeah.
Linked a couple of times as well. Newcastle
win for him as well. Aston Villa win for him when they came up to the Premier League
as well. Except that money isn't really everything.
No, it's not. He's not going to get the money he's on at Celtic and Aberdeen. So
talking about when the teams for England and that were coming in for him.
Yeah, exactly.
The money in Australia would have changed his life probably. Yeah. It changed his life entirely in a lot of different ways. But
exactly,
must have. I mean, the best team in Scotland were winning trophies.
He really showed his loyalty right to the club, didn't he? He really showed his loyalty to the club, didn't he, over the years, didn't he? So it's going to be big boots, whoever gets that number 8 jersey, really, isn't there? And I certainly wouldn't like that number 8 jersey, to fill those boots. So I think we'll move on from Scott Brown, and I suppose I speak for every Celtic fan here that we thank him for the number of years he's been with Celtic, the titles he brought us, the anger we could say he brought us when we were losing, but he'll always be a legend at the club, and I suppose every fan would welcome him back to the Celtic Park in the near future.
100%, he'll get welcomed back, rightly so.
Yeah. So we're going to move on from Scott Brown and briefly talk about two managers' names who are reported to have been in Glasgow this week. I don't know if that's true, but there's talks about Eddie Howe being in Glasgow, and there's talks about Roy Keane in Glasgow having an interview. Any light on that you want to share?
Well, I'll start off there, certainly with Keane. Keane as a player was absolutely outstanding, and I don't think even Liverpool or Man City fans would disagree with that. He was a terrific, wonderful player. But if you just read over, just in our own forum there over the last number of weeks, once this was touted, once his name started being mentioned, we have collectively said pretty much everything there is to say about Roy, and some of it has been good, some of it not so good. Yeah,
there's players who kind of like his kind of style, and then you have players that don't like that style. Really, isn't it? It kind of depends on the player, but he wasn't the manager that could push his hand around the player. That wasn't his style. You either did the job he wanted, or that's it. You know,
Absolutely, yeah. But
know?
certainly, but what the fans, I think the strong message being sent out by the fans, and not just in our forum, but in the wider fan base, seems to be that the fans don't want them. They see him as being
step down.
a divisive character, disrespectful in how he talks to people, and the main problem seems to be it's not at Celtic. It's just the modern day footballer just won't listen to that. They won't take it. They'll throw a tantrum, phone their agent, and say, "Get me out of here."
That he's been out of the game for so long, and
well, yes,
he's worked with Martin O'Neill. Could he have changed the way he is with players? We don't know that, really, do we?
Well, that's
he's an assistant manager. He could be a totally different manager when he comes into the club.
Aston Villa and at Nottingham Forest. So it's been out in the training ground every day.
Yeah, and I've read a lot of things there as well, Mark.
I edit the sites, the Nottingham Forest site, and I don't really say much about it, but I just, if the post's alright, I post that up kind of thing. And I've never really seen, there's still folk on the Nottingham Forest site that wished that they were still under Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane.
Yeah.
I heard that said that he used to get actually used to get involved in the training session. That he used to join in the games. And he used to give.
That's your kind of. You're in charge. That's the normal way again. You're in charge of the training kind of thing.
Yeah.
The positives.
Not really much people been slagging him off. Do you get what I mean? You get wee bits of faith fans, because there's fans on the other sites have got as much knowledge as we have and you have about Celtic. And there never really was a talkie like bus stops behind the scenes or players about anything like that. I said, to be honest, I don't know. None of us actually really know Roy Keane. Right? To me, he's just who he is, and that's how we take him.
A lot of things too could come from the papers, couldn't it?
Playing football under Roy Keane. See, when you listen to me as a pundit, it's see, as long as you're out there getting 100%. To the best of your ability, you don't need to be a brilliant football player, but as long as you're trying to gain everything you can, he'll not have a fault with you.
That seems to be Keane's issue with players who he does have a go at. He thinks they're not trying hard enough.
Even see him on Sky.
But do you think that was coming to? Do you think that's coming from the manager that he played under, Alex Ferguson? That you always had to give your 100%. You had Clough. They were two tough managers.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Two tough managers, and I suppose if you stepped out of line with them, you are punished.
Yeah, well, sure. Isn't it rumoured that
Keane in his arse when he was a young boy?
Yes, that's right. I'd heard that.
He did. Yeah, he answered him back. Yeah, he did.
Ferguson was like.
Yeah. The positives about Roy Keane, because he does have, a lot of people will criticise him, but he does have positives. A couple of things that I think he would bring to us. He would bring a toughness in the team because, you see, particularly under Lennon,
we got
in the latter stages, you noticed if our players got fouled, if one of our players got a hard tackle, the rest of his teammates just stood and watched it.
Yeah.
There was nobody jumping in and getting in the faces of the opposition.
That really has declined in the team, didn't this? And the players actually go down easy now, even for a small little tackle. They're going down. They're hurt. They're down to feet. Like this, that fight is gone. Really, that King would bring to the club.
I wouldn't like to be the players who had just watched their teammate get a kicking and they didn't do something about it. Then going back into the dressing room at halftime or full time, I think Roy Keane would have plenty to say to them.
I have something here.
He would build. Yeah. It would be like Martin O'Neill. He'd be playing mind games with the players. What the press is saying.
Yeah.
He's that to motivate the players.
Yeah.
I don't doubt for a minute he'll demand 100%, and if players' fitness and everything would be top notch. And again, we're getting back to he's used to working at the best of standards. So he'll that kind of level of all the medical stuff and the sports science stuff and all that.
Sure, look, Harry.
They've slipped the sports science side of things. You can't
look. Without a doubt, because I think how could the fitness just drop from when Neil Lennon? It's not just Neil Lennon's fault. That's all sports science. It's all there from the coaches that are there,
Yeah. Can you tell me that the Celtic players they now are making got the numbers into all the beat tests that they're doing? You can't tell me the Celtic players now are hitting the same numbers that they were under Rodgers.
No, without a doubt. But was that a more relaxed approach than Lennon, that he wasn't chasing up the sports science people as well, Mark? You know,
There was
you know,
nothing wrong. One of them's dropped the ball on it.
yeah.
Back to say like what we're saying about players not being fit, and it's up to them to have a certain responsibility for that. It's up to the sports science folk to go.
I just wonder when Dyla took over after Lennon, he said it about the diet that the players were on, that it was shocking. He changed all the diet, and then Rodgers came in after him. They were on a different diet. Do you think Lennon got to let the players go back on a diet that he was on first time when he was at Celtic, and that's why they came unfit, or anything like that?
There was definitely something. The quality, the standards dropped when
Like you look at the amount of waste that Lee Lennon not Lee Lennon, that Lee Griffiths put on over the last 2 years. You know, it's just is ridiculous what the amount of weight that I know he has his own problems, and he should be looking after his own fitness, but the weight he's put on, no professional player should be putting on that way in such a short time.
Oh, definitely not.
What you need to remember is what I think what we all needed to remember is just on that particular point is a bad diet doesn't just affect you your physical performance. A bad diet will affect your emotional and mental performance as well.
Of course, yeah.
And I think I just think over the last couple of seasons, there has been just such a lazy approach from the squad, and I think it has to come down to the guidance that you're getting, whether it was Lennon himself or whether it was that the whole sports side, that whole department, the whole backroom staff of the club. I think, because remember when Rodgers went, he took a few people with him as well. And I'm sure he had a good look around to see who he thought were the best ones to take with him, and that's what he did. Even though he tried to take John Kennedy as well, and fair play to the lad, he decided to stay. If what we hear is true, and I've no reason to doubt it, but there just has been such a lazy approach from our players over the last 2 seasons. In particular, I think it has been very, very noticeable.
It has been noticeable because. You're looking there, you're nearly 50, 65 minutes into a game, and our players are tired. Even at half time, some of them look bait.
Yeah.
You know, like
kids are knackered after making their first run of the game.
Yeah, we haven't kind of made a run into a box at the start of the season until Turtle came into the box in the second half. We started getting players into the box. You know, it's just ridiculous that the way a team could just decline in such a short time.
Yeah, and with mostly the same players. Mostly.
Yes. Yeah.
We'd lost a couple, of course, but over the last season or two, as any club really does. But it has been pretty much mostly the same first team squad. And yeah, Griff is the most frustrating player. I think he is an absolute outstanding striker when he's on his game.
When he's on his game, yeah.
When he's on his game. The problem is, for one reason or another, over the last season or two, he hasn't really been on his game an awful lot, and he keeps doing stupid stuff and getting himself into bother and whatever.
Exactly, and especially with the pandemic going on, doing these
exactly.
Kind of stuff.
Sure. Weren't him and his missus having some party or something in the house and stuff.
Exactly.
And,
the papers are going to get onto that straight away.
Well, listen, the papers probably were sitting outside his house knowing that it was going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah.
If anybody was going to do it, it was going to be him, and he proved them right.
Mark, I have a post here from you on the rumours page. I just want to bring it to your attention. You said when Roy Keane took over Sunderland, sitting second from bottom in the Championship, and he won the league and promotion to the Premier League that same year, he was doing well with Sunderland up until he had problems with Ellis Short, which still hasn't been resolved to this day between the two of them. He also worked with Lloyd Quinn.
I didn't mean it that way. His problem with Keane and Short. I meant Sunderland's problems, haven't they?
Yeah, but I'm just saying to you, like, do you read when you post, like, do you think that he took over Sunderland second from bottom and he bumped the Premier League? Is there an actual good manager in Roy Keane to change the Celtic team around?
Sorry, say that again, Paul.
I said, going by when he took over Sunderland, they were second from bottom of the league, and he brought them up to the Premier League until the problems arose in Sunderland. Do you think there actually is a manager in Roy Keane that can change this Celtic team around, and is actually the type of manager we need to come in and bring discipline into this Celtic team at the moment?
Well, as I've said, there's good points and bad points for him. But I think there's a good manager in Roy Keane.
Like he has a good record. Like his record in Sunderland hasn't been beaten since Lee Johnson this year.
Terence Casey, he's made a good point on the chat there. If it is going to be Keane, it's the backroom staff that's going to be vital.
That's it, really. That's it.
This, guys, is where I think the name Nicky Butt might come up again. I wouldn't be surprised. I was reading there actually.
There's two ways actually that way Nicky Butt can go. It's either to Derby to Wayne Rooney or to Celtic with Roy Keane. Yeah.
Well, you see, apparently up until last week or the week before, Nicky Butt was very happy at Man United. He'd been there.
Yes,
Nicky Butt has been coaching there at various levels for nine years.
9 years, yeah.
But he left United.
Well, they have a point. They've behind the scenes. So maybe Butt's job is maybe changing or something.
No, what
Nicky Butt?
What actually happened, Mark, was there was a guy, John Murtagh, who had, I think, he had worked with Moyes at Everton, and he came to United with Moyes. And he has just been, like recently, the last week or two or whatever,
a general director or something like that.
He's been appointed the director of football, and apparently him and Nicky Butt always had a bad relationship for whatever reason, I don't know, but they never got on. And this position put Murtagh way above Nicky Butt, and put him in.
Going.
That he's not going to have the saying on the players really that's coming into Manchester United anymore, really, is he, Nicky Butt? Now with this new appointment that's happening, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but my point is, if it is to be Keane, then Nicky Butt could become a real contender as his number two. He could do.
I think we need someone within the Keane setup who can develop young players and bring young players into the team. Like if you look, Mark,
where your director of football comes in, academy, that's
something. But that's why we said there, Mark.
The manager shouldn't be worrying about young players in that. The manager should be concentrating on the first team. Obviously, I don't mean not bothering about young players, but he shouldn't be worrying about how.
But he should be like
that's down to the director of football.
The director of football will do their development, but when they come into the first team, then the manager's responsibility going, get ready to
behind the scenes to protect the players for.
But going in that thing, Mark, there,
the first team.
When we spoke there the last couple of days, and we were going through the David Desmond letter, there was actually no mention of a director of football. So is this all talk about director of football, or are we going to get a director of football? Because there actually has been no statement from the club coming out about a director of football, really, has there?
There hasn't been a statement saying that there is going to be one, but typically Celtic, there hasn't been a statement saying that there isn't either.
But where did this all come from then, Chris? I just don't know.
I don't know where it originated from. I don't know where it originated from, Paul. But the one name that is never going away at present for the last while is Fergal Harkin.
Harkin. And that's
now, if you're talking about developing young players, and he has a terrific track record in that area of all loan players and so on. He seems to have.
We benefit from him over the years.
Dermot Desmond's pal.
But then that's the way. Then you could put that in as well, though, Mark, isn't it?
His name is Finn Harkin. Fergal
Harkin. Yeah.
How come
you could look at?
Oh, he's Irish. Is this just another cause he's Irish guy getting the job?
But you could look at that then and say, like, he's coming in, he's Irish. And then you could say, it could be Roy Keane's going to be the manager then if he comes in, because the Irish connection between the three of them.
But see the thing about it, some of our best managers have been Irish.
Yeah.
And folk, see the way people going about, because he's Irish, because he's Celtic supporter and that. It helps. See if you're going after top players, top positions in your company, if your company's Celtic, obviously. See if they're Celtic supporters, it helps. You're going to have, if you're entice somebody to come and work for you, if there's that emotional pull, that's going to help you. Entice them to come. That emotional pull's going to make them work harder. Do you get what I mean?
I think the issue or the potential with Harkin, I think the Irish side of it is perhaps a secondary attraction with Harkin, because if you look at Harkin's background, and what he has been doing at City, I mean, the lad has been terrific, supposedly, but
they won their first under-23s cup this season for a long time, and Celtic actually did benefit from these.
That's that Maresca.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So is that going to be Maresca and Harkin, maybe, do you think, coming in those two type managers together? Harkin and Maresca?
I'm really keen on Maresca getting the job.
I think it's a big step for an under-23 manager to come up, like especially with the rebuild that Celtic have to go through the next season. Do you know?
It's massive. I mean, he's never worked. He's never faced the press. He's never faced the Scottish press.
No.
The spotlight that's on the Celtic manager, I just don't know.
And especially next season, the pressure is actually going to be on the manager and on the players that manager is going to be.
December, he's like, I don't fancy this. This is too.
Exactly. And I think that's for manager from under 23 squad. Like, if we're not running games, like the Celtic fans will, as we saw with Neil Lennon this season, will be on your back.
Yeah. Well, I think, as far as that's concerned, guys, I don't think we need to be too worried, because if all else fails, you have to remember Derek McInnes is available.
Oh yeah. And Craig Levine as director. No, Chris, you said that.
I think I've put it up on the site, but I asked Ed 002 about Harkin. The contacts, it's unbelievable who they can get in touch with, right? But it says, I don't know Harkin personally, but he's very strong ties with Brian Marwood. As far as I know, deals with the Manchester City players on loan within the City Football Group and to other.
Yes.
He's responsible for arranging loans and ensuring the players are happy, getting the development they need, etc.
That's what you need, Mark, isn't it?
Sent it to youngsters they are looking to bring in. Right now, that includes several South American kiddies, including the likes of Kayak Chagas, Diego Rosa, just this list of South American.
Yeah. I think that's good, because
what he doesn't do is decide on targets or deal with transfers. That's a responsibility of Director of Football. To keep big, just in mind he was at Barcelona. It's up to him and his scouting network. The natural progression for Harkin would be a role within the City Football Group, but perhaps that.
Do you think if Harkin came in, Mark and Chris, would he be looking into bringing some new scouts into the Celtic thing, because the way our scouts have been lately with the post signings?
Part of it's got to be to overhaul the scouting department.
Because you have to look at our scouting over the last couple of years and what we're looking at, what kind of players we're bringing in.
I don't think anything wrong with the scouting. It's actual players we've signed. Scouted and no signed. That's been where the mistake is.
Yeah, we've been scouting the likes of Tony. Lord didn't sign him because of his. Lord seems to be going for kind of the alternative cheap option to what's there. Really, hasn't it? Kind of.
Yeah. I've never seen a club like Celtic over the last few seasons who signed so many players. They announce them and then you never hear of them again. Never hear of them. You look at Sevco. Virtually every player that Slippy Stevie has signed has been playing.
Yeah. Is this fella we signed from Ipswich years ago, Benzu fella? Is he still in our books? This young kid. We signed him from Ipswich.
I'm sure he
on loan, or is he? We actually don't know who all he was never actually given a run in the first team or anything. We don't even know.
It's his name. I get Benyu into it.
Benyu, yeah, Benyu. Is he still?
Oh yes, it's Benyu, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd forgotten all about that.
This fella's going to be.
He's signed for a team called Vestry in Iceland.
Kundai Benyu.
Yeah, like he was born when we signed him. Like he was going to be the next big young fella coming into thing, And then we just, as you said there, Chris, we just never heard of him after that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
but
but
never
that
made
just seems to be a theme with a lot of these young lads that we're taking in,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is where I think the likes of Harkin could be tremendous,
Yes,
because
yeah.
he's responsible for all the loans and so on. But not only that, because he's working for City, he has established global contacts with the best teams in the world.
But the best teams, like, you know, because at the moment, like, all we seem to be doing at the moment is kind of signing players from the French league. You know? And to be fair, we've got great success out of them. But when they don't want to play,
the French lads are moody. The French lads are, I mean, listen, Eddie, when he's on his game, and you know, for a couple of seasons he has been on his game. He hasn't been particularly sharp this year. Moussa was terrific. Moussa Dembele was terrific for us. But to see the likes of Julian, I mean,
is he going to go down? There's talks about him as well, going that he wants to leave now because all his buddies are leaving. You know,
I wouldn't miss him. He's too soft.
And, could you see him in a Roy Keane team?
Back for Julian, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
Could you see Julian in a Roy Keane team being injured nearly every second game? He played 2-3 games. He gets injured. He's out for 3 or 4.
Tiny's wee Noki gets in.
Yeah, sure. When I
know that there's no crowd in that, you can.
See, that's like that. Got that knock against the post. That knock didn't look that nasty to me when I saw that knock. You know.
Well, I doubt the season when he was out with the back injury. I was convinced with that. I was
Paul,
injury there.
Let me ask you, Paul. How do you think Julian would respond to the Roy Keane stare?
Oh,
I think he would melt.
6 weeks.
I think he would melt.
Ever injured with a stare.
I think there's a lot of players in this Celtic team at the moment are fearing the name of Roy Keane coming to the club.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in their comfort zone now.
Yes.
That if Roy Keane came in and he saw these players the way Roy Keane would never accept a player down in tools, no matter if you had a contract or if you wanted away from the club. If you're playing for the club, you play for the club.
Yeah.
You know, all right, you're not getting in my first team. Roy Keane would never play these players who wanted away.
Keane would bring a toughness to the squad, mentally and physically. And I think he would bring, if Keane was the manager and if he had a say over the players, which I imagine he would want if he were in the role. But Roy Keane would be going out looking for mini-me's.
I'm just saying there
of himself.
To the subscribers there, just listen.
One mini-me.
Just because I'm a Corkman now and just because I'm a Corkman and I'm talking about Roy Keane doesn't mean I actually want Roy Keane in the club. All right, so I'm just making that point true.
But what I've said on the site, I love the guy. You know how I feel about Roy Keane, but I'm still not convinced I want him as manager.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I can see both sides of it. I can understand every reason.
Yeah, there's for and against really, isn't there? You know, there's for and against really for him, what he can bring, and then what the other side of Roy Keane can bring. Yeah. You know, so there's really for and the next game.
I'd be happy. See that Maresca? I'd be happy with him as Keane's number 2.
Number 2, yeah. Or would you think there'd be a chance of Damien Duff coming back, Mark?
Saying that there is.
You know, that's the talk I've been hearing here a lot over the last couple of months was Damien Duff because he left his
day. The director of football, Hart and manager Keane.
There's actually talks why Damien Duff left the Irish team was
over that video.
But he was supposedly being the one behind the video, putting it up on the telly. And when people reported, he was actually so disgusted that the FAI made a big deal about it, that the Irish players, they're playing their biggest rivals. What's the deal? And that's supposed to be one of the reasons that's why he left the Irish team. You know, I think
one of the reasons, I think that was the main reason, Paul.
I think it was the only reason.
That's what I'm saying. That was the reason he left. You know that.
Yeah.
You know, I think Duff was a big miss this season. That he was well liked within that squad. Wanted Damien Duff.
I don't think he'll be back though, because wasn't the reason he left Celtic because of his wife and kids. They didn't want to come to Scotland. So unless there has been a major,
a bit older now.
And
Yeah,
they're kind of still well settled. She refused.
yeah.
When
So
he retired, the first place she wanted to do was return back to Ireland.
you see, the problem is, Paul, she's like any Irish girl. She wants to be near her mammy.
Yeah,
Will be.
exactly.
About that, you've got to think of that with these young players as well. But
Yep.
saying that because, well, you're playing at a big club, you're travelling away a lot in that. You're not
Yeah.
spending as much time at home as a normal dad
Yeah.
is.
Look
Yep.
at El Hamid. El Hamid this season.
That's
You
see,
know.
maybe because he's got Brown's sister and that. Maybe his family's just all that close knit that he had
Yeah.
want it in Scotland all the years.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? If he was away, he knew that his mum was all right because his wife was there just round the corner. Things like that. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yes.
Sure,
Yeah.
we saw that this year with El Hamid, didn't we? That he missed his family and he couldn't see him over the pandemic. You know, that takes an awful effect on your well-being as well, doesn't it?
definitely
You know.
stuck in a strange
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, yeah,
Basically, it's a new job. It's just like you going to a new job and not knowing anybody.
yeah. So
It's
moving on from, oh, sorry, Mark.
young lassie, young women and that. Do you know what I mean? It's best to say is leave their mammy
Hmm.
Yeah.
when there's
Yeah.
Exactly,
young kids and that. I mean,
exactly,
go down to London.
exactly.
My man's going to sign for, I mean, KT.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's got a girlfriend, but down there, and
I'm sure. I'm sure when
Pierce,
Kieran Tierney's girlfriend saw the paycheck, she went down to London, I think. Huh? So moving on, we'll move on from Roy Keane and we'll move on to the other name that seems to be gathering a bit of pace is Eddie Howe. Seems to be popping up again. Is he some that you'd be interested in seeing what he did at Bournemouth?
Well, I think he's definitely potential. You know, you look at Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe's still only in his early 40s, so he's a young guy. But if you look at his background, you know, he already has 12 or 13 years experience as a manager. And, you know, he played as a pro himself, obviously, for probably a similar number of years. But, you know, he was even brought in as a player coach at Bournemouth when he was still only in his late 20s as well.
He was, yeah. He was 2007 he retired.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
came back to
it's,
Bournemouth in 2009 when they were fighting relegation into the
Yeah.
National Conference. So
yeah. You know,
and then-
if you think about what he achieved at Bournemouth when he took over them, they were in
Exactly.
League 2.
no, lads, their PK just messaged in. Hi, lads, I've just had a message saying Howe has been offered the job. Apparently, voted over Keane.
Right. So, well, is that a reliable source? Is it?
Oh, I don't know.
No, you don't know. You don't know. Listen, Eddie Howe could be a good guy because if you think he was the guy that started the Bournemouth revolution, as it were, you know,
without a doubt.
do you know,
Without a
because
doubt.
like he took them from League 2 to League 1 to the Championship to the Premier League and kept them there for 5 years until
2 promotions in 3 seasons, Chris, is what he got.
Yeah.
You know, that's some record, you know, what he done.
Yeah.
And he had no real budget either at Bournemouth, so there was kind of
Yeah.
no money there getting up these leagues, you know.
Now, obviously, as Bournemouth were moving through those leagues, they were probably getting a bit more money every season available to them. But they were taking a big step up in class every season, and he was able to deal with it. So a lot of people say, I've heard quite a few people commenting on the forum saying, what does Eddie Howe know about managing a big club? Well, what Eddie Howe does clearly know is how to manage because he has done it. He has done it, and he's done it very well.
What did Martin O'Neill know about managing a big club?
Exactly, sure, Martin O'Neill was.
Yes.
I mean,
you know,
Leicester's a bigger club than Celtic.
No.
Well,
And they want to be,
especially
they want even it. So
who was it? Was it Chris Sutton that said Celtic reserves are bigger than Leicester?
Yeah.
Was it?
Chris Sutton said that.
Something like that. Anyway.
And even like that with Martin O'Neill was at Leicester, they weren't really a good team either, even when he managed them back then, you know. So Martin O'Neill wasn't really at a big team either.
I did myself. Everybody uses stats to back up their own argument, their own point of view. But it doesn't really matter what any manager's done at another club.
Yeah.
It's what they can do for us. Club now, because every man makes mistakes.
Yeah, but
the forum somebody brought up a few weeks back. I mean, Jurgen Klopp's been relegated. Arsene Wenger's been relegated.
They have, They have. You learn from your mistakes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just no be right. We speak
No.
players and managers the other night. We say that sometimes they just come in and everything clicks, like Scott Sinclair. Everything just clicked, and
Yeah, it clicked. Yeah, it
Yeah.
did. It just clicked. Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
clicked.
managers are the
You know,
same. Sometimes
Yeah.
they get in and it's
like
stuff and it clicks, but managers are there a lot longer, and it's their job that's in the line. So when
5 years.
isn't he clicking, they're out the door.
Yeah.
5 years.
I think as far
Sorry.
as Eddie Howe's concerned, I think his main strength is number one, he has quite a number. He's a dozen years of management experience behind him, so he knows what he's doing. Now, he was at Bournemouth for quite a number of years. Obviously, I think with the exception of maybe a season at Burnley, it's been pretty much all Bournemouth.
Yeah, yeah.
But somebody thought he was good to keep him around that long, and the development of that Bournemouth side was, even listening to past players, just after he left last season, the players were devastated that he had went. But it's like anything else, everything has a shelf life. And maybe things had just become a bit stale at Bournemouth, whether it was the players were fed up listening to him, or he was fed up looking at them, or maybe it was a combination of the two, or perhaps there was even some influence from management as well that was knocking things out. Because bear in mind, they were in the Premier League, they were in the serious
5
league
years.
at that point.
5 years,
Tiny.
yeah. He kept him in the Premier League. 5
Yeah,
years.
but
kept him
they
in
were
the
a
Premier
tiny team in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Every season that they stayed in the Premier League was as good as them.
And you know what I liked about him?
Team winning the Premier League.
About him? He still tried to play his football. He still tried to play the way even if he knew he could have played a long ball, he could have kept defending. But that's the way he wasn't. He knew the way he wanted to play, and he still tried to play that way. Like, he likes to pass out from the back.
Yeah.
So, like, if he came in, would Barkas benefit from him, that he likes to play out from the back?
I think, Barkas is a player that is in, his confidence is shot. Maybe he's another lad that's been terribly
But it doesn't
affected
help either, though, when your manager, Chris Mack, brings into the squad one day, tells you you're number one keeper, and then the next day he drops you.
Well, no, that doesn't help. That doesn't help. But
a
the whole
goalkeeper
issue
needs
of
a run of games, really, don't he, to really get his confidence going? And I know he hasn't kind of really may have saved this season, but could he be a keeper in him next season under a new manager?
It depends if there's it depends if there's enough spirit left in the lad. If it hasn't been beaten out of him by Lennon this season.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if he is.
But you were saying there, Mark, the other day, Mark, supposedly that there's a team in Greece ready there to
meant to be. He's sniffing about, seeing if he can maybe get.
Would we need a new keeper as well in this rebuild? Like, even though we have three, do we actually need a new keeper? Because Conor Hazard actually made his debut tonight. I think, for Northern Ireland. He's playing in goal tonight. Chris, I think, is he?
Because we've got to keep Hazard, because we've just gave him a new contract.
Yeah.
I see that there's that.
Again next season.
Is he ready to be our number one?
No, I wouldn't have him. No, I don't think he's ready to be number one. No.
I see there that there'd been talk about Celtic, whether they had shown interest in that young Danish lad, Junker or something. And apparently a young lad. I think Derby or somebody had been interested in him as well, but I don't know what happened to him. But he was another young lad that potentially a terrific prospect as well. And again, well, I don't listen. You know what the media are like. It could have been a load of nonsense. There might have been nothing in it at all.
There's a good one here after coming in from Bawz. Since Barkas came to Celtic, he was, remember now, when he was number one player before he came to Celtic for Greece. Mm-hmm. He's now the fourth choice keeper. It just shows how actually he fell.
Yeah, but sure, he wasn't called up there.
If you're not playing your national team's not going to pick you.
Yeah. But wasn't he dropped last week or the week before or something?
Just done it with Hazard.
Yeah.
I think this is I think some players just aren't suited for the Scottish game, and for him, he's a goalkeeper. I think he's very light to be a goalkeeper. He reminds me of when David De Gea first came to Manchester United. He was so light, and the United coaches bulked him up a bit. And Sir David De Gea came one of the best keepers in the world then. You know, I think he's very like to be a keeper. You know,
He does look a bit.
because wasn't he an outfielder?
Gogglebox.
Wasn't he an outfielder before he became a keeper? Wasn't he? He played.
Yes, he started off as he was an outfielder. I think he started off as a striker when he was young, did he?
Going by strikers there, actually, I was reading an interesting point there the other day there on the website there from the Celtic website. We actually have no recognised striker in our youth academy at the moment.
That's terrible.
That's coming true.
Shocking.
Yeah, and this is true. The last time we produced a striker, and I think Bawz can check this if it's true, is Tony Ross that came into our first team. That we haven't actually no striker and that's why when the team went out, they had the quarantine when they went to Dubai, they came back. That's why there was no striker actually up front from the youth academy, because there was actually no striker there to step in to the first team. There was a striker there, this young lad Montgomery that's in the squad at the moment.
Yes.
But he was being Darren O'Dea and Steve McManus and the youth academy decided to keep him as a left winger and a left back, and they actually changed his position from a striker. So we're actually producing no strikers at the club, and there's strikers down there at the underage levels, but as a striker being ready-made to step into this first team, there's none whatsoever there.
Yeah. Well, and that's I think that's probably a perfect example of how.
We need a director of football
our
like
development
to come in, didn't it? Yeah.
I mean, our development of young players has been bad. As I said earlier, we've been bringing in all these young lads, and you haven't seen who's actually running that.
Is it McCourt, I think, Mark, is it?
McCourt and Tommy McIntyre, isn't it?
McIntyre, yeah, Tommy McIntyre. McMahon says, and Darren O'Dea's involved with him in the youth setup as well. Is he Darren O'Dea?
Well, I think he's a coach or something like that.
Coach or something, yeah. It's actually worrying times, like to see like a club who always produced good young players and always gave them a chance in the Celtic team. That now we actually don't have young players actually to come. Not don't mind saying the first team, but even come into the first team squad.
That's what I say. I keep repeating myself about it. There's the young players that we bring in. There's no clear path.
There's no path there, yeah, exactly.
The first team, there's no plan. There's no.
But then again, Mark, it goes back. But Mark, it goes back to what you were talking about there the last couple of weeks there on the rumour site. If you're a young player and you want to break into the first team, the coaches can only show you so much as well. You have to do things yourself to get like you look at Kieran Tierney, you look at Callum McGuire.
A team like Celtic.
Yeah, but that's like, are these young players doing that? Like we look at what's his Oxlade Flex there. He's been in the youth academy for a long time, and I thought he was going to be ready-made to come into this first team, if not this season, maybe next season. But he's another player who just have to kind of slipped off the radar,
I honestly think, though, that had we had a different manager to Neil Lennon over the last couple of seasons, some of those young players may have been given an opportunity.
Lennon was the same as well. His first tender, he never really kind of gave young players a go, really, did he?
If Lennon hadn't left the first time, he would have been off.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because I preferred Izagiri.
Izagiri
was at the stage, although he was still a young boy.
Even when he first kind of came in back, when he came back, Mark, he was still kind of playing Izagiri as well now and then, as well when Kieran Tierney was in. Yeah. Jesus Christ, we'll have Izagiri at left back if Neil Lennon was in on crutches.
The Tim that drives that on, he's got a bit of a bromance going with Izagiri, hasn't he?
Yeah, Izagiri. Another player actually that we've kind of never mentioned, and he's been around the club for a long time as well, and I don't know if he's going to be still here. Is Neil Beaton? Is he?
One could move back to Israel and be taken.
Yeah, I think he would. And he has been so uninvolved in the team anyway that he wouldn't even be a miss now. If he did go.
That's it. But that's another player then as well. I'm saying there's another player who's actually taken the wage.
Yeah.
For just being he's not even been a bit part player.
Yeah.
You know, he comes in when players are injured, really. Then he gets injured himself. He's injured now again. He had to come back from international duty because he picked up another injury. You know, it's like these players are just constantly picking up injuries all the time. Like international duty has been.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Dahan.
Yeah.
The amount of players that we've been not forced into buying, but because of the connection between him and Lowell. That's that calling Kazim Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of these players would leave now, Mark? Like we know Scott Brown is leaving, so now with Peter Law leaving, do you think like the likes?
I don't know.
Do you think Beaton? We'll have Cal Maguire. Do you think Maguire would think it's now time for him to go if a big offer comes in for him from another club? Do you think Maguire will say?
Sorry.
Callum McGregor?
I think you would. I've said that a few times. I'm not convinced McGregor will be here next year.
Yeah. And if we say if Maguire does go, there hasn't been a rebuild like this in Celtic since I say Martin Neal came in, and this is
a bigger rebuild.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, this is the biggest rebuild I think we ever had, really, in my generation anyway. And we need the right manager to come in, the right management team, and if needs be a director of football, because the Dominic Mackay he's not going to have the guidance to sign players.
Stories and leaks about a director of football to into the press and on the.
But there was been nothing about Celtic.
There's enough things being leaked to think that they're trying to bring in a director of football.
Yeah, but nothing has actually come out from the club, and like you can't expect a new CEO to come in know nothing about football, because he's been in rugby all his life, and to go sign these players or things like that, you know, like he could be recommended a player from Zimbabwe, and and his agent would tell him he's brilliant, and we'll end up signing him then for, we say, 7 million, and he probably just sit in the bench. So that's what I'd be afraid of, like that he has no experience in signing football players.
That's what we've been saying for
years.
It should be football people making football decisions.
Football decision, yeah, and that's I think
the money men make the decisions about the money and leave folk to do what they're good at.
So we're going to put it out there. So between.
By the way, David Gallagher just said that we actually bought Tony Watt.
Did we actually buy Tony Watt? So if the lads can.
That's absolutely correct. Actually, that is true.
So if the lads can come out and say, was it Mark Burchell? Was it?
That's what David. I can't make that out right.
But that's actually a long time since we actually.
Yeah, no, he was. He started off. He started off at Airdrie 2009, 2010 in the youth, and then he had a season for the first team, scored 3 goals in 15 appearances.
I think when Mark Burchell was in the squad, I could have been around 10, 12. So that's a long time, I think, for a player.
You're almost going back to the Second World War there, Paul.
I'm not like some of these lads on these rumour pages at all, coming up with their pre. World War II stories about Celtic.
What is he talking about here?
No, Mark. Was Mark Burchell so the last striker we actually produced from?
Surely not.
But no one actually comes to mind.
I can't think any off the top of my head.
That's a long time since we actually produced a striker. So that.
When was that, Burchell? That must be about 98, 97.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if that is
with the big, see the top with the big Umbro sponsorship in the middle there. Remember.
See how bad or actually like we always produce good midfielders. They're saying we always produce good defenders, but it's actually a striker that we can't produce.
Tony Watt came into the team in '98, and he was in the first team squad until 2001. Oh, sorry, Burchell.
Well, that would be about right with that big
98 to 2001, and I'll tell you, his stats are not. He scored 20 in 50 games. Not shabby for a young lad at the time.
Not shabby for a young lad, but it just shows how far it took us to produce a new striker, and we still haven't kind of produced a new striker within our
That is a shocking. That is a shocking fact, isn't it?
I told you I did my research, lads. I told you I did my research.
Bawz has mentioned Sully and Sheridan and PK.
Sheridan, yeah.
But I mean, what kind of appearances did they make? Would you really count them as first team players?
But that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Anyway,
Sheridan kind of played just a normal few games. You know, we really haven't produced a striker that came into the squad, and like Burchell scored a good few goals. We always produce defenders. We always produce good midfielders. But it's just a striker that we never seem to kind of produce. A striker that would come in, a young player, maybe score you 10, 15 goals. You know, it's not.
No, but
you know,
see if you had a young player that was capable of doing that, did be.
But that's the problem too, yeah.
It's young players just want everything they know. They want the fancy car. They want the big fancy. They want the.
I remember my brother there was good friends with Liam Miller before he passed away. They played soccer here together in Ireland, and he was saying one of his biggest regrets was actually leaving Celtic so early in his career. There he went to Manchester United too early in his career, and that another season would have benefited him at Celtic before he moved to Manchester United.
But he was attracted. He was attracted by the money, wasn't he?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Roy Keane.
That's it.
Part in that.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
The problem though, Mark, just going back to what you were saying there.
Can you blame Miller for doing that?
No, look, he was looking after the lad was looking after himself as anyone.
Exactly, but that's the problem. Like, that's the problem, you know.
Good.
No wonder. No wonder players.
He's just going back to what you were saying there, Mark. About
that made him. Do you get what I mean? You can't fault a young player for doing that.
There's still a charity one here in Cork in Ballincollig for Liam Miller. You know, people do a charity one for him to raise money for the family, and you know that people actually didn't forget him, like who he was. You know, you know.
We could maybe even look into getting a wee connection going for that.
Yeah, I could look in. I look into that, Mark, when it's on. All right?
Just on that point you were making, Mark, about young players. You know, they want the cars, they want the watches, and they want all the glamour that goes with it. The problem is for a club like Celtic and like so many other clubs throughout the world, if the kid is good enough, there'll be a queue of clubs that will give him all those things, and not only will they give him.
Should there be a cap on young players' salary that a young player can get? Should there be a cap on what they should get?
Things I was mentioning the other day about the changes to the FIFA regulations with the money and that. One of the things about it is that there's teams, some clubs are looking to bring a cap in.
I'm sure Rangers will find a way to get around that in their shares.
Bring that in, a salary cap, especially young players.
I just say, but I'm sure Rangers will find a way to get behind that. I say, you know.
Oh no! What I did was that it makes it easier for clubs to be a bit.
But it is like it's ridiculous.
I think they're trying to relax the rules a wee bit.
So you look at it, though. You look at Barcelona now, Real Madrid, like these teams who have spending billions on players over the years, and they're actually in billions in debt now because of spending all this ridiculous money. You know, it's actually giving a young player, we say 60 to 80,000 pound a week. It's just ridiculous money to give a young player to attract him to the Premier League. You know, that's obviously going to play with the young fella's head.
And
you know, and
the money and the fame and the likes on social.
That's it then, and that's why then they end up in the papers doing all these drinking stuff. And exactly, yeah.
That's important to young players and actually playing football and winning things. And that's another thing that Roy Keane.
That's one thing.
Keane goes on about that quite a lot.
And that's one thing he doesn't like. And do you know what? I have to give it to him. And he's never stepped out of line, even with the media or even the thing. Was Kieran Tierney. You know. He always kept his head down. He never did anything silly outside. Do you know?
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. You know, he's actually, for any Celtic young player or player like looking at a team like Kieran Tierney is the perfect example. Like leaving Celtic, going to Arsenal. In 2 years' time, he's going to be Arsenal captain. I say, not even. He could even be next season if Aubameyang leaves. He could be captain.
Tierney will be at Arsenal long.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Arsenal have offers for him in the summer, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't-
And I think he's the type of player now that Guardiola would like in his team, wouldn't he? You know, Kieran Tierney. You know,
I think he could play for any team in the world.
yeah, without doubt, without doubt. So
No, right now, maybe no, right now he couldn't get to the very, very top, but eventually he will.
He has the perfect attitude for. Tierney has the attitude that will take him as far as he wants to go. If he wants to go to the very top, he'll go to the very top because
Like it
not only is he naturally talented as a player, but he has the most fantastic attitude.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
He's working.
yeah. Because you were saying that, Mark. You were saying that, like, for a young player, just to look at Kieran Tierney, and he used to be walking after sessions when he was younger. He used to be staying up with the ball, practicing this, practicing that. You know, instead of wanting money when he was like, you know. So,
well, if Roy Keane was to be manager, there would be no issues between him and Kieran Tierney as far as effort is concerned, anyway.
Yeah. So out of the two there, out of the two managers, like, I know there's going to be more managers linked with the club, but these are the two that have kind of popped up since the start and have never kind of went away. So that's why we kind of focused on them two tonight.
Yeah, I think certainly as far as I'm concerned, if I had to choose between the two of them, I would choose Eddie Howe because Keane has the potential to be very good, but he also has the potential in equal measure to be an absolute disaster at Celtic as well.
Yeah,
I think Eddie Howe is a steadier pair of hands.
I'd like us to stay away from someone with a Celtic connection.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. Interestingly, I read a while ago about Roy Keane. You know, a lot of people were saying, Roy Keane grew up as a Celtic fan and so on. Roy Keane didn't grow up as a Celtic fan. Roy Keane actually grew up as a Tottenham fan.
Tottenham Hotspur fan, yeah.
And the reason he chose Tottenham, he says, is because where I lived, everybody supported either Manchester United or Celtic, and I was fed up hearing about the two of them, so I decided I would support Tottenham.
Tottenham, yeah. I actually read that story not so long ago as well. Actually, that popped up here as well.
Yeah. But yet, I've heard lots of fans saying that Roy Keane had grown up as a Celtic fan.
Out of the two, Mark, who would you kind of be pushing towards?
Well, to me, there's too many ifs with Roy Keane.
Yeah.
Right, I'm saying I would be happy with Keane if they get somebody like Maresca and he's his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
But whereas Eddie Howe, does it make much difference who his assistant is?
Do you know? Yeah, but the best thing actually I think with Eddie Howe at the moment is that his own assistant that's been in with Foreman since the start is actually available now as well. Is it Tidal? Like,
been on a few Celtic podcasts, I think.
Yeah, Tidal I think is his name. I think so. Like, that's already made management team already there, and I actually liked.
That's what I'm saying. The thing about this, even we're talking about Keane, we're saying, oh well, it would need.
That's exactly. Who's going to be the number two? Who's going to be the number? Yeah, exactly. When Eddie Howe's
football,
as Eddie Howe's number two is actually available as well. That has been with him all these years.
That's that lad Tyndall, isn't it?
Tyndall, yeah. So I'd actually the one thing I liked about Eddie Howe was that when he lost, you could see that he felt it.
Yeah.
You know, in his Bournemouth teams, you know, he really gave Bournemouth. I know they got relegated, a thing like that, but people are saying it's a small club. That's a small club, but what he did with that small club and to keep them in the 5 years in the Premier League. You look at Sheffield United, any team, they always have one good season, and then they're relegated in the second season. You know, he kept them up for a thing, and he really didn't sign any big name players.
Yeah,
you know, that's the same. His squad was actually nearly the same when he left as it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's testament to him because those players
exactly.
He was able to provide a stable squad where he was able to keep the guys happy. He did it for he did it for 5 years in the Premier League, but he had been doing it for a few years before that as well.
Exactly, but that's the way that's what I read actually. When he started his career, he actually knew what manager he wanted to be.
Yeah,
he wanted to keep passing, play from the back, and do a high press. That's the way he wanted to be as a manager.
Yeah. And that would suggest that, you know, he's a thinking manager. He's an intelligent manager. He's a steady guy. And I don't mean a lot of people think, oh, he's a steady pair of hands insofar as he'll keep you mid-table and he'll be okay. But I think a guy like Eddie Howe
Chris,
with the opportunity at a bigger team, would do very, very well because he has all the personal attributes to do it.
Mm-hmm. Did like keeping Bournemouth in the league is like winning the league for Bournemouth fans, keeping them in that Premier League, the amount of money that the club were making at that time. You know, and I think it's going to be a long, long time when Bournemouth get back up to the Premier League. You know?
Even people talk about the style of play that managers play in that. You've got to remember, he's there to do a job, and his job was to keep Bournemouth in the Premier League.
Yeah.
It might not have been pretty to watch or whatever, but he done what the job was.
He done his job, but yeah, exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
the job in hand. You come to Celtic, you're going to,
but that's right. That's
possession. You're controlling the game. A good manager will tweak that his own style to suit that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know that.
The thing about Bournemouth, though, you know, and I think it's one thing that's very, very overlooked. Bournemouth did not have a massive income because their stadium only has a capacity of about 11 or 12,000.
No, exactly. There was one of the smallest stadiums.
Yeah, it's only about 11 or 12,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not generating millions every match day. You know, from season ticket holders.
A lot of their money was
from
TV rights. That's what a lot of their money was from, actually TV rights and people logging.
League. See the Premier League. There was a list released the other day I've seen, and it was match incomes. You know, the way it'd been all working out of last year. I think it's that Swiss Ramble. Jenny, he covered a lot of the financial stuff in the football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Swiss Ramble blogger, Swiss Ramble on Twitter or something like that. And see the amount of teams, even in Tottenham's actual income for match day is buttons really to their total income as such.
Yeah.
I was watching.
Right, saying that Bournemouth only get a stadium that holds X amount, but when they're getting off of televisions more than Scottish football's getting.
Oh no, I understand that, but in comparison to other Premier League teams, they did not have a big income.
They did not have things like I was.
Sorry, I maybe picked that up a bit.
Yeah, in comparison to what they were competing with, they did not have much money, but yet he was still able to keep them in the Premier League for 5 seasons. And that wasn't by luck and it wasn't by accident.
No, because he had his teams organised. Every player knew what he wanted to do, Chris. And he always stuck with his philosophy and the way he wanted to play. And I think that's what's after happening to Rangers in the last 2 years, that Steven Gerrard has found the way he wants to play, and he's brought in those players the way he wants to play. And Celtic just never.
Is that Michael Beale? It's Michael Beale that's the brains into the operation there.
Yeah.
You know, I had never heard his name until recently, actually.
You know, but I was speaking.
Michael Beale. I'd never even heard his name until maybe about 6 months ago.
It just came up about 6 months ago. It just came up that this is the man behind the scenes, do you know, and this fella then behind Gerrard, that's bringing in all these players and getting things up and running for Steven Gerrard. I was watching the thing there, and Arthur Barrett was actually speaking it from Lega Rossa, and he was saying about Eddie Howe that it was drilled into everyone at training what they had to do for the next game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that they practiced, they watched videos of the opponents for things. So they already knew what way the other team's style of team played. No.
Under Rodgers, Celtic players used to get sent home with fact sheets in that to read.
And
they'd be getting alerts off.
Yeah. And I think that's where like
stuff to watch.
Yeah.
Sending them this stuff constantly.
That's
opponents.
That's the way Eddie Howe was supposed to be, the way he operates, like, and
with Rodgers.
You know, and you say that then, 14 then doing all this stuff so professionally, and like we're not trying to diss Neil Lennon on the site today, like, but you know, Lennon's been another great son to the club, but you have to look at the way he managed this team and how this actually team came in decline under the last 2 years under Lennon.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
I've blamed the players for not taking their own responsibility and their own professional pride in what was going on in the park.
Exactly.
The buck stops with Lennon and Lowell.
Yeah.
It stops between the two of them. Because if Lennon wasn't pulling his weight and keeping the standards up, it's up to Lowell to step in there and say,
that's it, like,
I'm getting reports back for other departments that this isn't
maybe this is what Celtic actually need at the moment. You know what I mean? This big, huge change that's happening. Get rid of this culture that has been here under I think is it 14 years Laura's been here?
Oh,
14?
it's about
Longer than that?
17.
17?
Something like that.
So just trying to get out of this kind of culture that he has, and get a whole different approach, not just in the management, but even on the board system. You know, this board as well. Like, so, you know,
There's
like,
a staleness about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no doubt. There's certainly within that first team squad. But just a wee thing I want to bring to your attention, lads. You know, it's maybe something for you to listen to at another time. On BBC Sounds, they do some terrific podcasts, and there's a wonderful one. And, you know, talking about players' mentality, it's a podcast called "Don't Tell Me the Score," and it's a guy.
I thought you were going to say "Don't Tell the Bride." There, I was like,
no. You know, it's called "Don't Tell Me the Score," and it's the guy that runs the podcast. It's so professionally done, but he uses people from the world of sport to talk, or to explain everyday personality traits, and whether it's about courage and whether it's about dealing with pressure and so on. But there was one that he did, and if any of you ever get a chance to listen to it, it's so the podcast is called "Don't Tell Me the Score." I think it's one of the first ones that he did. There's maybe 20 or 30 of them, but this one it's based on character, and it's with a very, very well-known sports psychologist called Bill Beswick.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Beswick, Beswick. Now, his podcast was the podcast that was done with him. It's about half an hour so long, and it was about character. And in that, he's the most fantastic guy to listen to. Due to the nature of my job, I listen to a lot of things like this, all about personality traits and so on. But Bill Beswick, now I can't recall the football team that he was talking about, but it was a team that was under a terrific amount of pressure. It was Steve McLaren at Sunderland.
Steve McLaren.
Was it Middlesbrough?
Middlesbrough. Yeah,
Right.
Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough. I think it was Middlesbrough. We're going through it. They were in a real bad place. And Bill Beswick got together the players, and so his job, he was basically brought in to get them to think, just to get into their minds and so on. But as he said to them collectively, he said, it was coming towards the end of the season. They were in a bit of diffs, and he says, guys, the next number of games will not just define you as footballers, they will define you as men, and how you cope with the next number of games and whether you're up for the challenge. It won't just define you as a player, it'll define you as men. And that is what we have been, the relevance of this is that is what we have been tremendously lacking in our squad. We have lacked character, and that has come from the management. That has absolutely come from management, because I think Neil Lennon could have listened to Bill Beswick himself about attitude and how to do things right and how to focus on things, because as we all know, Lennon was running around like a headless chicken. I think he forgot that we'd signed David Turnbull until bloody January or November or December.
Exactly.
I think he forgot he even had him, and he sort of fell over him in the car park or something and wondered who he was. But it was only then that he started to play him. But character is what our squad has been missing so badly this season.
Exactly.
And listen, we were missing it last season as well, but it was papered over with a treble. Now, listen, you can easily say, well, sure, what more did you want them to do? Well, winning the treble last season should have set them up to be in a strong position to at least win the league this season. And character was missing within the entire squad and the whole management.
To be honest, Chris, Neil Lennon was lucky that Rangers kind of crumbled again after Christmas last year, and I think he was. Yeah. I think of him and Peter Lawler, they were kind of thinking that kind of same thing would happen again, that they would crumble.
Yes,
and they didn't. You
The
know?
very start of this season, when Rangers started getting ahead, even on our own forum, there were lots of guys, "Oh, don't worry, there'll be the post-Christmas
Yeah,
meltdown."
but I think between all the teams, Rangers actually did benefit from their fans actually not being in the stadium, because when they made mistakes or anything like that, there's no one there for them to be shouted at or this thing. So they actually did benefit from things, and they had nothing to worry about going out in the next game. So that really benefited it from them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's no doubt. Yes, they have benefited substantially, because even if we were really on our game, it was going to be tough for us this season anyway.
Exactly, it was that, but that's down to like post signings by Laura and how, I think it was Mark, you said it. You always knew that Rangers were going to catch up, but you didn't think it was going to happen so fast.
Yeah. But I mean, I genuinely think that the board knew there was going to be big changes this season, but they were hoping they could scrape over the line with the 10 and then do a rebuild.
I didn't think the club do
catch up eventually. But
but not so fast, Mark.
I didn't think that they would actually take over us. With too much financial clout and too good a squad. And I still think our squad's better than theirs.
Well, the squad, without a doubt,
And as I keep saying as well, we're all going on about, Peter Law's done this, Peter Law's done that. There wasn't any Celtic fans moaning when the transfer window slammed shut.
No, we were happy. We were happy. It just didn't work out, didn't it? Everyone was delighted, and I was even delighted when we signed Shane Duffy. I was actually delighted, but
I thought you would have done a lot better for him. He can't even get fit.
No, so like it.
Cash, we thought of £5 million for a keeper.
Yeah, because they've
been watching him for months, 18 months.
And even the things, Mark, you put on the banter page of him on YouTube and the saves he was putting off there, it's just unbelievable, but you have to think, we're going to finish on this, I think, very soon, and we'll move this into tomorrow's story. What happened this season? And we can all blame Dubai, but Dubai wasn't the reason. This happened since the start of the season. What happened?
Problems were there before we went to Dubai.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So that's what I'm trying to say. What happened to this club, Mark, this season?
And if people above that not making a decision quick enough, that's what it was.
And do you think that the club should have reacted so when the fans were screaming out about it, that we should have reacted when we got knocked out of Cluj?
The club should have reacted to that. If it reacted to that, what happens next year if we lose a game?
No, but I'm saying how bad I'm saying how we got knocked out of the Champions League qualifiers against Cluj. Should the club have acted then, going, we shouldn't be getting beaten by these teams at all?
Really, we shouldn't be getting beat with Cluj, but we talk about it. They're well organised, well drilled teams. That's who we struggle against.
Yeah, that's it. But then, the club should the club be saying, Mark, why?
The fans were angry about the Champions League, and every year we seem to balls.
Exactly.
This year, see if we'd won the league, anything could have been forgiven. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
This year, nobody would have bothered about Cluj putting us out, and nobody would have about the beatings that we got.
Exactly. But I think now, because we lost the league, everything seems to be coming up, and that's the one thing I hope that the new CEO comes in and changes this policy of waiting to see if we qualify for the Champions League to sign players. Why not sign these players before the league, the qualifiers start, and get us into the Champions League, and then you make your money back on these players.
That Lowell wasn't willing to take.
No.
We've got enough to.
I saw a great post here, Mark. It was on the rumours page today. One of the lads put it up on the banter page. They said, we know we're not going to win the Champions League, but get in the group stage, get a good run in the group stage, and then finish third in the group stage, then fall down to the Europa League, at least get some revenue from the Champions League in the group stages. Well,
effectively, on that basis, Paul, if that were to happen, we would actually have been getting the best of both worlds. You'd have been getting the Champions League money and then the Europa League money too.
But it is possible, and I think that's where like that's one of Lord's biggest failures, I think, was not investing in the team before the Champions League qualifiers, waiting to see. Like, there was always so if we were knocked out of the Champions League, everyone talked about, all right, who's going to be sold now, you know.
Well, that was part of the problem, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
books.
that's it. Then into balance in the books, and
I seem to be repeating just things I've said in the forum for years every time we come on this now.
Yeah, but I think every Celtic fan, Mark, I think every Celtic fan is marking this, that this problem
Celtic's
isn't happening just now.
Celtic's aim in Europe should be to qualify for the Champions League, right? Now and again, we'll get second place and we'll get through.
Yeah,
The minimum
yeah,
should be to come third.
and get into the Europa League. Yeah, yeah,
A group will come up, but that's just not going to happen. But that should be the basic kind of way we're aiming.
yeah,
Go.
yeah. Like I know I've never been to.
Celtic should have European football after Christmas, one way or another.
Exactly. Like I've never been to. I've never been to Celtic, but I always watch them on the Champions League. Like, so I always watch Celtic on the telly. Like, and I could tell you, like,
Oh, well, Shales,
listen. Yeah, that is, thanks, man. But listening to players from top European clubs, there's no place like Parkhead on a European night. There's your revenue. There are full stadiums on the Champions League night. For how many games you have at home? 3 games at home. You have your revenue from the Champions League group stages, and then fair enough. If you do qualify for the knockout stage, that's fair enough. But at least, as Mark said there, Europa League should be the minimum finishing, not getting destroyed 8-0, 7-0 inside these games at all. You know, now we always do. To be fair, when we do qualify, we do get a tough group. You know, and that's to be fair. We do get to beat the best of teams in the groups. You know,
we do always seem to have a bit tough.
You know,
but that's part of being in that mix.
but that's what you want, then, Mark, isn't it? That's what you want. You want these big teams coming to Celtic, don't you? These fans want to see like Chris's first time there. His first match when he was youngster was against Juventus when Liam Brady came. And like I said, that probably was an amazing experience for you, Chris, to come and see that.
Oh, Europe. Really?
Yeah, but no, yeah. I've been to, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 European games at Parkhead, and I mean, they are, you know, obviously when you're traveling to it, you know, the excitement starts as soon as you leave the house, you know, because you're going on a bit of a journey as well. It's always a bit of a slug on the way back, mind you, but
thing about
that's the worst thing. The worst thing about it, but anytime I ever went to see, I never ever. There's a lot of guys would go over from Northern Ireland, you know, on like a Saturday, and they're up at like 3 and 4 in the morning, and they're not home until maybe 3 the next morning. Trust me, it's a long 24 hours. But I did that a few times, and then I said, no, that's not what I'm going to do. So what I always did, even just for league games, I would have flown over on the Saturday morning, and I would have stayed Saturday night, and then flown home at my leisure on the Sunday. And if you book that well enough in advance, it's not significantly more than getting a boat and a coach. Not significantly. It is more, but it's not like 10 times.
Mark, the pigeon used to drop Chris home when he was finished. Fuzzy's pigeon. That's our.
To take a Learjet.
take the Learjet.
The first time actually a pigeon has ever been employed by a pod set. And you know, what this pigeon does is just unbelievable. Huh? Yeah. Anyone who can come up with a name for a Scottish pigeon who follows Celtic, just throw the names out there. They will be surprised because he's actually been getting shot at a lot of times. Yeah. So we'll keep the pigeon safe.
Yeah. But no, I just always find it made the whole experience much more enjoyable because it wasn't a big long slog every time you were going to see a game.
Yeah,
this is kind of similar. I know, but see, like getting up to Aberdeen.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. See, getting up there, it's brilliant. But see, as soon as you leave the stadium,
there's actually good thing here from Chris as well. What's that team? Farros, is it the team that starts with F there that knocked us out of the Champions League again? The another minor team. Feren.
Ferencváros, the
Ferencváros,
Hungarian
yeah.
side.
They
The
knocked us
Hungarian
out
side.
as well, sure, didn't they? And who was that under? Was that under Neil Lennon as well?
Listen, we're blaming Lennon for everything, so yeah. So let's say it was, yeah. It probably was. It probably was.
Yeah, so like I think
that was only that was 2 seasons ago, wasn't it?
26th of August 2020.
Jeez.
Seems like
Yeah.
1920 after sitting watching it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was only that was only last season in.
Somebody just took for us in the Champions League.
Well, yeah.
Right, that was foolish. We got about Lennon stinked his same tactics and no changing things. Rodgers going out there to play against PSG and thought he was just going to play his normal game. That's craziness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, there's no doubt, lads.
That's it.
Rodgers wasn't without his flaws as well. Rodgers was found out in Europe.
We got, and even with Leicester, he's after getting found out in Europe.
That's right, by Slavia.
So like
Slavia Prague, they're a good team.
They're a cracking team. I like them.
Organised, well jobs.
I think,
and they do their job.
I think every manager has their flaws, no matter who they are, and I think we'll carry this on tomorrow. We'll stop here for tonight. If that's all right, G.
That's nearly 2 hours.
We'll continue tomorrow. So
Where
I
does
think
the time go, guys?
I think tomorrow's show, lads, we're just going to kind of continue this as this is the news at the moment. Is
open letter to Dermot Desmond.
Dermot Desmond, exactly. Change for Celts for Change 2021.
2021. It's all teed. That's the guy seems to be involved in it. And
so we want to talk about that.
Involved in the Resolution 12 stuff.
Mark is
a really
going to
knowledgeable guy, so it is worth paying attention.
Mark, would you be able to put that up on the banter page so people have a look at it? So if you want to have a look at that, lads, and maybe give us your opinions on that. Mm-hmm. And if anyone wants to ring in tomorrow, just let us know during the day tomorrow, and Mark and Ed will get you on the show. So for Mark, myself, and of course, thanks, Chris, for coming on. You've been amazing with your stories again tonight. As Anton Deck said, that's the end of the show. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, stay safe.
Subscribe button and the thumbs up.
Thanks,
Stay safe, lads.
Good night.